All right, if you guys are working on the grade assignment, go ahead and wrap it up, please. Let's take a look at the notes. What's the grade assignment like, please? Everybody look up at the board.
It would all be 115.
Oh.
Bad.
This activity, it's okay, we'll figure it out. The activity at the top of the page, everybody should be on the day 2 notes for this unit. This activity uses angle relationships you guys already know, your vertical angles and your supplementary angles, right, to find what the measures are. From this diagram, this little exercise, we're going to figure out some rules about the angles we learned in lesson 1, the corresponding, the alternate angles, and the consecutive angles. They have special relationships with their measures, okay? So let's take a look. I only have 2 angles, like Logan noticed. I only have 2 angles in this picture. I'm going to have to work off of only those. So if I know that angle 1 is 115, how can I use an angle relationship to find the measure of angle 2?
180.
Yeah, these are a linear pair, aren't they?
Yeah.
So if this is 115 and together they equal 180, if I subtract that away, what would I have for angle 2? 65. Good, 65. Then what would the measure of angle 3 be?
65.
Using what relationship?
Vertical.
Vertical angles. And so what would angle 4 be?
115.
Because it's vertical to angle 1, right? So we use supplementary and vertical angles to help us fill in the angles in the picture. And we can go down to angle 8. Do the same kind of thing. What's the measure of 5?
115.
Using vertical. The measure of angle 6? Using supplementary. And then the measure of angle 7? 65 using vertical, right? So we use previous information from Unit 1, our vertical and supplementary angles, to help us find these measures. Now we're going to take a look and bring in the angle relationships we talked about last time, your corresponding, your alternate, and your consecutive. And we're going to notice some cool patterns with the angle relationships. Do you guys remember what these symbols mean? Parallel. So everything that we're learning for the rest of this unit is exclusively true for parallel lines. That's why I have it in all caps and all these definitions. So what we're going to be learning about with our angle relationships and their measures will only work if the lines are parallel. So what we saw on day 1 where they weren't parallel, we can't solve. They have to be parallel for you to be able to solve. So make sure you keep that in mind. If you don't see these little symbols, you cannot solve. All right, take a look at the corresponding angles. Can somebody name a pair of corresponding angles for me? Yeah, in this picture right here.
1 and 5.
1 and 5.
6 and 2.
6 and 2.
7 and 3.
7 and 3. 4 and 8. You guys can see them all, right?
Yes.
Okay. What do you notice about their measures? That's not what we're writing on the page. What here? I was just identifying them. So angle 1 and angle 5 are corresponding. What do you know about the measures of angle 1 and angle 5? They're the same. Okay. What about angle 2 and angle 6? What do you notice about those measures? They're the same. So what do you think is true about the measures of corresponding angles? They're congruent. That's what's going to go on our line right here. Congruent. That's what goes on our line. So anytime you guys have corresponding angles in a diagram, you know that their measures are always going to be the same. Every single time. As long as your lines are parallel. Okay? So cool. Corresponding angles are congruent. What about the alternate angles? Take a look at the picture, think to yourself, see if you can find any alternate angles.
5 and 4.
5 and 4 are alternate. Okay, what do you know about their measures? 5 and 4.
They're the same.
Okay, what are some other alternate angles?
3 and 6.
7 and 2, 3 and 6, 1 and 8. What do you know about their measures?
All the same.
They're all the same. So what's true about alternate angles?
They're congruent.
They're congruent as well. So anytime you have in a diagram parallel lines to create your H, right? If your H lines are parallel and you have the transversal, if you have corresponding angles they're congruent, if you have alternate angles they're also congruent. Now let's look at the consecutive angles. Somebody raise your hand. What's an example of some consecutive angles in here?
5.
Hands up. All right, go ahead. 5 and 3. What are some others, Mac?
6 and 4.
6 and 4. Others that are also consecutive, Carlos? 8 and 2. And then last one? 1 and 7. What do you notice about their measures?
Different.
They are different. They're different. They're supplementary. So the first one you guys suggested, I think, was 5 and 3. If you look at 5 and 3, I have one of them is 65, the other one is 115. When you add them together, what do you get? 180. So for consecutive angles, every single time, they are supplementary. Supplementary? No, it's a weird. Okay? So these are some rules you guys need to remember. Day 1 was super important. So if you can't tell what the angle relationship is, you won't know what's going on with the measures. So first, you need to know whether they're corresponding, alternate, or consecutive. We practiced that on day 1. Now we're pulling in that if you know what kinds of angles they are, you know that they are congruent or supplementary based on that category. Right? This is going to lead us into now solving. So all the rest of this lesson is going to be looking at diagrams, figuring out what the relationship is, and then solving. That's what we're doing today. A couple of hints. I have some asterisks here. So if the angles are opposite classifications, that means one of them is obtuse and one of them is acute, can they possibly be the same measure? No, right? So that's something you guys can use as a visual aid. If you're looking at your picture and you notice one of them is clearly obtuse and the other one's clearly acute, can they be congruent? No. They must be supplementary. So that's a visual guide you guys can use to help you figure out or confirm whether they're supposed to be congruent or supplementary, is look to see whether they're both acute or there's one of each. So that's that first little hint. And then the second one is really, really important, so you might want to circle or underline that. Some angles in your diagram may not have a relationship to begin with, so that means you would have to use vertical angles to shift that angle to a better position in the diagram. So in some of these pictures, we're going to see angles that don't have a relationship, just like we saw in day 1, but that doesn't mean you can't solve. It just means you have to take that angle and move it into a better position using vertical angles. Okay? So keep that in mind as we're going through. So what we're going to do is look at these diagrams. You guys are going to tell me which variable you want to start with, and then we'll go from there. All right? So check out diagram number 1.
Alternate.
Hold on. Which variable would you like to find first? Okay. So what I want you guys to do in the beginning stages of this, Logan, do you need to take a step out there?
I don't know.
Is your back hurting you?
Yeah.
Okay, why don't you go take a walk outside, see if that helps.
Okay.
All right, so for angle X, the first thing I want you guys to do is figure out what's the angle relationship. So ignore Y. I just have the X and the 118. They're alternate interior. So what I want you guys to do is write down what the angle relationship is first. Now, what do I know about the measures of alternate interior angles? They're congruent. So if I know this is 118, what's the measure of X? 118. Good. Okay, we got X. Ignore X now. We're switching to Y. Okay? So now, the Y in the 118, they are these two right here. Consecutive interior. And what do we know about the measures of consecutive interior angles? They are supplementary. So because I know one of them is 118, the other one needs to be supplementary to that. So I can do Y plus 118 is equal to 180 if you want to write an equation. They add together to equal 180. That's the definition. So then what's the value of Y? There you go. See how we do that? Figure out the relationship first. Remember whether they're congruent or supplementary, and then solve. Yeah? Right, number 2 is an example of this double asterisk I was warning you about. What's the relationship between the angle labeled Y and the angle labeled 67? They're alternate, but one's inside, one's outside. Nope. There is no relationship. Corresponding angles are one's inside, one's outside, but they have to be on the same side of the transverse, not alternating. So these don't currently have a relationship, but they're still asking us to solve. They can't ask you to solve a picture that can't be solved. So there is some way that we can solve this. What you're going to do is use vertical angles to help you shift one of these, either the Y or the 67, to a new position that's more helpful. So do you guys want to move the y or the 67? It's really your choice. The y? Where could I put another y? I could put a vertical angle y right there. I know they're congruent. That's what lets me put the y in that position. And now what's the relationship between these angles?
Consecutive interior.
They're consecutive interior, which means that they are supplementary. So I can say y plus 67 is equal to 180. I didn't solve that.
113.
All right, what'd you guys get? 113. 113. Good. You guys see how we did that? So even when they don't have a relationship, you can still move them so that they do. All right? Okay, hands off. You guys do that one.
Oh.
Me, my hands are off. You guys do that one.
Wait,
Stop. Hands off. No. I want you guys to try that one. I'm not even going to tell you how to do it. Give it a try.
Can you give me a calculator?
Your back is hurting?
Still is. Sorry. I don't know. Even when I stand, it hurts. Yeah. I think I might need a chiropractor. Keep having these back pains. Might be my backpack. Yeah. Never really answered my parents. I think I can carry it. Like, I think I can carry it, but I can't.
Alright, well, go ahead and take a quick trip. No, you can take your phone. Take a quick trip. Okay? Tell them what's going on. Take the blue pass. Alright, let's come back together. Now I asked you guys to start it. Let's see if we can figure out where we are. Okay? The first thing you guys want to do is tell me what the angle relationship is. They are consecutive interior, which means what about their angle measures? Okay, so when they're supplementary, what does that mean? They add to 180. So you guys need to write an equation. This angle plus this angle equals 180. Now what? Now algebra.
8 or 10 plus 30 and 3x plus 5x.
Okay, so you get 8x.
Plus 1 equals 30.
Okay.
Plus 40.
Alright, so algebra gets you what?
Divided by 8 equals x equals 20.
You should get x equals 20. Right? So again, the process is figure out what the relationship is, remember whether they're congruent or supplementary, you write an equation, solve. Okay? What about 4? What's the relationship between these angles?
Corresponding.
They are corresponding. What do you know about the measures of corresponding angles? They are congruent. So what equation would I write?
X plus 80 equals 5x.
X plus 80 equals 5x. Solve that. Using your algebra. X is 20 again. Alright. Everybody see how we're doing that? Alright, for number 5, there are 2 variables. I have a very important question. Which variable should I solve for first?
X.
Why? Or how come?
This is z, so that means that.
That's vertical angle.
No, I'm looking for a much more broad answer of why we should solve for x first.
Oh, can you find what?
How many x's are there?
2.
How many y's are there?
1.
How many angles do you need to create a relationship? 2. So you're forced to use the x first. Okay? because you want to solve for the variable that you see the most of. So because I see 2 x's, I'm going to solve for x. Now, what's the relationship between the angles that have x's? Hold on, what type of angle pair? They currently do not have a relationship. So you have to use the shift trick. You have to shift one of the angles somewhere else. So I'm going to move the 86 plus x to a position where they actually do have a relationship. Because the way that they are right now, one's outside, or they're alternating, but one's interior, one's exterior. That's not a relationship.
Wait, so we
You could also move the,
wait, so it's the 86 part, so I just need to change the interior too.
yes. Yeah. So now you're taking it from the outside and putting it inside using vertical angles. You're allowed to do that because they're congruent. So now what's the angle relationship between these two? What would you call those?
Consecutive.
These are now consecutive interior. Oops. They're consecutive interior. What do you know about the measures of consecutive interior? Supplementary. So the equation would be one of the angles plus the other angle is equal to 1/8. So you take the 2 angle measures and you add them. Write that down. Make sure you always write the equation. And then we're going to solve. Minus 170, 80 something?
X equals
3x equals
84.
84?
Yes.
And then when you divide 84 by 3?
28.
Now, that's only one of our variables. Now how do I find y?
Like x into 2x plus 10. If you add, substitute 28 for x.
Okay.
Because it's the vertical angle, it's the same.
Okay, so if we're trying to find y, there are actually 2 ways you can do it. You can plug the x into this angle and use vertical angles, or you could plug it into this angle and use consecutive exterior. Really up to you, whichever one you see first. So this one might be easier, right? If we take the 28 and plug it into the 2x plus 10, what's the measure of this angle when you plug it in?
66.
Okay, so that angle becomes 66 when you plug in the 28. So what's the value of y? 66, because it's vertical, meaning that it's congruent. Sometimes you have to find one variable and then plug it in and find the other. And again, you can still use vertical and supplementary if you need to.
How did you get the 66?
I plug 28 in. 2 times 28 is 56 plus 10 is 66.
Oh, so you used 66.
Yeah. Yeah, you found actually plugged it in. Okay? Alright, you guys do number 6 by yourself. Do number 6 by yourself. Everybody should be doing number 6.
Oh, I got
Wait.
They're with each other, right? They're alternate, like they're alternate.
Can we get a decimal?
I get
One of them is. I think. Pretty sure. Let me double check. Oh, for this example, you should not get a decimal. There's one on the next page.
Oh yeah, that's technically right.
Yeah, I didn't get that.
Hold on, pass.
Oh yeah, yeah, mine. Wow.
What am I doing?
You add it to the side?
plus x, so that's
Enter and solve.
But did you move it to this side or that? Well, then you have to add. You brought this over here to get it unnecessary. And then divide by next. So the better.
Ice cut from things like
Pretty consistent, right?
2 times 25 minus 10. 40.
I knew there was a way to strap this thing to the
Correct.
side front.
Wait, why is it 40? Okay, because y is 2, so there's y is 40.
Is it 25?
Because
X is 25. Alright, let's come back together, everybody. Come back together. What's the which variable do I have to find first? X, because there's 2 of that variable. What's the relationship between the 2 angles that have an X? They're going to be congruent because they are alternate interior. So what equation could I write? 2x minus 10 equals?
65.
Okay. You can solve that, or you can add the x. And then add the 10, so the x's are on one side and the numbers are on the other. Kind of shift their positions. And then when you divide by 3, you get the x's. 25. Okay, so x is good, 25. Now, how do I find y?
We're going to do 65 minus 25.
Okay.
703.
So you can plug it into this angle, which are consecutive interior supplementary. You could also plug it into this angle, and they're a linear pair, which is also supplementary. So you can pick whichever angle you want to do. But if you plug it in here, what's 65 minus 25? So if you plug it into this angle, you get a 40. And these two are supposed to add to what? Because they're consecutive interior. So if they add to 180, what does that make y? 140. Alright. Picking up what I'm putting down.
Wait, which one was it?
Before we go to the next
Get
page.
one, actually.
Where? Do I need to scoot up?
No, I just needed to.
This? This one right here? I don't know which one you're asking about.
Like, how do you get 140 for y? Like,
So you plug in, since I know what x is, I plug it into this angle right here, the 65 minus x. So I do 65 minus 25, which is 40.
oh.
And then these 2 angles should be supplementary. So I go ahead and do supplementary.
Oh, okay.
Before we go on to the next
Thank you
page,
for telling me your process.
what you guys are going to do is you're going to pick a question. You guys are going to pair up with the person next to you. You're going to pick one of the questions and explain it to that person. And then that person is going to pick a different question and explain it to you. So you basically just go ahead and recap, explain the question that you like, and then they'll explain another different one. Go ahead. So we've already done it.
When do you get wait, one of the examples?
One of the ones you've already pick one you like and re-explain.
Number 1 is alternate interior. So alternate interior.
number 2 has
Go back. Okay, so you're on this angle.
Alright, for something I can do is subtracted by 130.
Any question that we already solved?
Oh, yeah.
Alright. Go ahead and bring your conversations back. Alright, go ahead and turn the page. We're going to look at page 2. We have slightly more complicated looking diagrams on here, but again, it's the same process. Figure out what the angle relationship is, write an equation, and solve. Okay? So for number 7, which variable do you want to solve for first? X. Alright. What is the angle relationship between the two angles that have an X? Vertical. We can still flash back to Unit 1, use those angle relationships. If these are vertical, then what do I know about their angle measures? They're the same. So I can write an equation. 3x minus 15 equals 2x. And then you solve. You're going to subtract the 2x over here, add the 15. Whatever algebra you want to do, you should get 215. Yes? You can subtract the 3x to this side, in which case you would get negative 15 equals negative x, but then you have to divide by a negative to get the x to be positive. Now I need to find y. Okay? Which one of these angles would be better to use in order to find y? You think it would be better to use this one?
No, the one above it, like instead of doing y, is carried into the angle to the line.
Using the angles that are already provided. What's the relationship between those two?
Not consecutive.
They're consecutive exterior. What do you know about consecutive exterior angles? Yeah, they're supplementary. So I actually want to use this, and you don't want to use the 3x minus 15 because that has no relationship to the y. The 2x has a relationship with the y. They are consecutive exterior, so they're going to be supplementary. So go ahead and tell me, what's this angle since I know what x is? What's 2 times x? 30. Once you guys know what the angle is, you can just write it in. So then I know the 30 and the y should add up to 180. So I'm going to write an equation, 30 plus y equals 180. Again, you plug in the x. Okay? Okay. So be strategic when you guys are trying to find y and you're trying to figure out which angle to use for the x. Be strategic. I use the 2x because it has a relationship with y. Questions on that one? Alright, which variable do you want to solve for first for number 8?
Y.
How come? Because there are 2 of them. What's the relationship between the 2 angles that have y? Okay. What do you know about the measures of corresponding angles? Congruent. So we're going to write equation. Y equals 2y minus 30. You just take the 2 angles that are equal to each other. And then I'm going to subtract over. So I want the y's on the same side. So y is equal to y is 30. Using your algebra, be careful. Now, I know what y is, okay? So y is 30, so I know that this angle is 30, right?
Yes.
How can I use that to help me find x?
Supplement.
What's the relationship between the x and the 30? What type of angles? Consecutive, interior, which are? Yeah. Remember, when they're consecutive, interior, or consecutive exterior, they should be supplementary. So if we plug in y, once you know a variable, plug it in. I plug the y in for that angle. So x plus 30 equals 180. So x is Oops, sorry.
Small cylinders.
X is 150. Again,
There's so many different ways you can do it.
there are,
like,
yes. Yes, you could have also plugged the y into this angle right here
yeah.
and done linear pair. Do it that way as well. Okay. All right, I think I'm gonna let you guys try number 9 on your own. And then we'll take a look at number 10 because it's the next 3, 10, 11, 12 are trickier. So I'll walk you guys through that one, but I want you guys to try 9 by yourself. So for number 9, figure out the relationship, solve.
Also question. Do you understand these? I forgot.
Yeah.
Number 9 would either one work like
To start. Take a decimal.
I'm being called. I'm being called.
Oh yeah, they're doing the emergency testing.
I'm being called 1 hour. This is the test of the national average.
Alright, guys, don't worry about it. The total is gonna happen, that's not it, it's just they're just testing.
I didn't hear it.
Oh, that's smart.
I didn't hear it after that.
Everything's fine, put your phones away, just testing the emergency system thingy. Alright, you guys tell me what to do for number 9.
You take 4x minus 9 and equals them because they're consecutive interior.
75 equals 4x minus 9?
No, I think it would be 75 plus 4x minus 9 equals 108.
Yes.
Because
They're consecutive, which are supplementary, not congruent. And again, look at the visual. How could an acute angle be equal to obtuse? That makes no sense. Okay? So when they're one of each, obtuse and acute, that's a visual to remind you that they should be supplementary. So then go ahead and do the algebra. You add 9 and then subtract 75. What's that? You add 9. So 189 and then subtract 75. Help me out. That's the final answer.
Minus 9.
189 minus 75. So if you divide by 4, okay? Now, do you have to use x to help you solve for y? No, you do not.
3y is equal
You
to
can if you want to, but you don't have to. Because don't I have a relationship between this angle and the 75? What is it?
They're all alternate interior.
These are alternate interior. The 3y and the 75 are alternate interior, which means what do you know about their measures? So then I can say 75 equals 3y, because they're alternate interior. If I divide 75 by 3, what do I get for y? There you go. You could have plugged in x right here and done linear pair if you wanted to, but you don't have to. Again, there's lots of different routes you guys can take. questions on 9? Alright, number 10 is different. Okay, see how it's not an H anymore? It's a little more complicated. So this is where your highlighting is going to be helpful. Everybody remember how we talked about highlighting on day 1? So what I'm going to do is highlight the 2 lines that are parallel. So remember you can only solve when these are parallel, so I know which lines to highlight, parallel ones. Now you guys have to tell me which variable do you want to start with?
Y.
You want to start with the y? Okay, so the y is right here. I have 2 different numbers in this picture, the 58 and the 62. Which one of those would be relevant to help me find y?
68. No, 62.
Remember how we talked about transversals?
62.
What angle is on the same transversal as y? 62. This is the line that they have in common. Remember how we did that highlighting? So the line that they're both resting on that they have in common is something right here. So I'm going to use the y and the 62. What kind of angles are those? What do you know about the measures of alternate interior? Okay, so what's the measure of y?
62.
So just one more time. The y and the angle marked 62 are alternate interior, which would be congruent. So you just say the 3. Cool. All right, now let's look at the x. The x is right here. Am I going to use the same transversal that I used for y? No, because the x is not touching that. So I'm going to use this transversal right here. Does that include the 62? No. We're switching to the 58 now. So see how the highlighting can help you. It isolates which transversal and which angles you want to use. So ignore the 62 and the y. I'm just focusing on the 58 and the x. Do they currently have a relationship the way that they're drawn? Can I fix that?
Yes.
How?
Move it.
Can I move the x?
Yeah.
Right here? So lets me do that.
The vertical.
Vertical angles. So if I have an x here, it's misplaced. It accidentally fell down. Wasn't supposed to be there. You want to put it back where it's supposed to be using vertical angles. You're allowed to do that. What's the angle relationship between the 58 and the x? Consecutive interior, which should equal what?
180.
Good.
So x is 1.2.
So if you write an equation, 58 plus x equals 180, x equals 120. Alright. So when you guys have more than one transversal in the picture, you got to figure out which transversal you're using for which angle. Gotta be careful. Alright. Number 11. Highlight the parallel lines. Those are going to help you isolate the information. Okay. I'm looking for y. This is an interesting case because the transversal I want to use is this one right here. That makes that h. Now the problem is that I have the 80 right here, but the y, in order to create angle y, I need the extra line. So we have a problem here because we have to work with both of these transversals at the same time. So what I'm going to do is that I don't like that. I don't like working with 2 transversals at the same time. I just want to work with one. So I'm going to do this. This is another strategy that kids really like, is to redraw the picture without the extra line. So I have my parallel lines, and then I have the transversal. Where would the 80 go? Can I put that in my new picture?
Yes.
The 80 would go right here, the same place as it was in this picture. Now, do you guys see how you can only have y if you have this line right here? So if I take that line away, what goes in here?
40.
Is it just y?
Yeah.
Y plus
I would just say this is y.
Y.
It's y plus 40. Do you guys see how this angle right here that I just highlighted in that picture, it's y and 40 together?
So
They're working together.
y. 40.
Yes. Excuse me. Hold on. Before we move further, is everybody with me that this angle is y and 40 put together? This angle that I've drawn a little arc in. Once you take the line away, you can't say this is just y. And you can't say that it's just 40. You have to say it's y plus 40. They work together. Right? So now I'm using this picture. No, don't turn it. Sorry, now it's ridiculous. But anyway, So the two angles that are here and here, what's the relationship? Consecutive interior, which are, so you're going to say y plus 40.
Plus 70 equals 180.
Yes.
And then so y plus 120.
Excuse me.
Y plus 120.
Y plus 120. You combine like terms. So y is equal to 60. I put this in here on purpose. Sometimes it will throw another line in there to chop up your angle into two parts, and you will need to remember to fuse it back together when they separate it. So be on the lookout for these kinds of questions. Excuse me. All right, I want to see if you guys can figure out 12 on your own. Go ahead and look at it. This is what I call a hashtag diagram for obvious reasons.
Why do you do that? See.
Actually, we're a little bit short on time. I want to make sure we finish all of this, so I'm just going to ask you guys to work me through this. So look at the x and the 92. Do they currently have a relationship? Alright, so I'm going to have to do a little bit of shifting the angles around.
Move the 92 to the line that the x is touching.
Okay, so Logan, notice. Do you guys see how the x is on this transversal, but the 92 is on this one? They're not even on the same transversal. So I have to shift one of the angles all the way across so it's on the same line as the x. So can I put a 92 right here?
Yeah.
Why? Because it's corresponding. Do you guys see how these are parallel? Because these lines are parallel, I'm allowed to move that line. If the lines are not parallel, you can't do that. Remember, all of this stuff that we were learning about congruent and supplementary only works if lines are parallel. So I'm going to move this right here using corresponding angles. See how I'm writing little notes to remind myself on how we're doing this stuff. I move the 92 over. Now, can I find a relationship between the x and the 92? Consecutive interior.
X plus 22 equals 180.
Yes. So when they're consecutive interior, they should add 2. So x plus 92 equals 180.
X equals 88.
Good. So whenever you have a diagram like this, where you have two sets of parallel lines to create a hashtag, you can move angles around using corresponding. You can still use vertical if you want to, but you can also now use corresponding, alternate, whatever, to shift the angles around, as long as they are parallel. Alright. Well, we will work more with the hashtag diagrams and other diagrams I call the fence diagrams. We're going to talk about those on degrees. Alright, these terrifying looking diagrams right here are what you might see on the SOL. So we're going to take a second to look through these. Some of them are more complicated than others. Some of them that look super complicated are actually really easy. So this is a bench. Couldn't tell. This is a bench.
I thought that was a table.
Well, okay, so it's a picnic table. It's a picnic table with a bench. So I have 3 different variables. I have x, y, and z. If you guys would like to, you can redraw it like this. If the lines are too thick for you to understand what's going on here, you can redraw it. Except that's not helpful. You can redraw it if you would like, right? Which angle do you want to start with? Y? Okay. So y and 122 are right here. What's their angle relationship? Consecutive interior. What do you know about their measures? They're supplementary, so if you do 180 minus 122, okay. So y is equal to 58. Cool. All right, which variable do you want to do now? X? What's the relationship? Z? Okay, fine. Z. The relationship between Z and 122? Vertical?
Yes.
So Z is good.
Is this
X is what? What's the relationship between X and 122?
Corresponding.
Alternate interior.
Oh, I thought you meant Z.
The X and the 122 are alternate interior, which makes them congruent. So X is also 122. There you go. That's all question complete. Okay?
I did see that.
That was pretty simple.
Alright. This next one is a ramp. This next one's a ramp with a weird railing type thing.
Garage.
No, it's a ramp with a railing. I want you guys to find the angle labeled E, the angle labeled E, and the angle labeled H. I want you to find H and E, those angles. Now, in the directions it says you guys can assume that anything that looks parallel is parallel. If I don't give you that prompt, then you cannot assume. So I am allowed to say that these are all parallel, because they look like they are. The directions gave you permission. Alright, what transversal might be helpful? Hold on. Do you guys know where I could draw a transversal?
Yeah.
Where? Here? Right here would be a transversal I might want? How about right there?
In the left.
The only angle I have is 115. Guys, the angles I'm trying to find are up here. I need to shift the 115 that way. Okay? E is right here. So let's figure out how to get there.
Interior, which means they're congruent.
It's not alternate interior with anything right now.
115.
They're corresponding, alternate, they're
Um,
nothing.
The 115 and the E do not currently have a relationship. Here? Here. Up here?
If you move it out.
Right there?
Why? The other one.
Yes.
Here?
You tell them which side you're
Okay, but that's not where the E and the H are. I don't care about the middle line, guys. Listen. You can put the 115 here if you want to, but that's not where the angles are. I'm trying to go all the way over here. And you're allowed to do that. You can pretend that this line isn't even here. So it would,
Or no, yeah, alternate.
well now it is, once you put the 115 here.
So,
Okay, everybody stop saying this. Alright, watch. I'm going to take the 115 and I extend the line a little bit and I put it here because these are alternate interior. This 115 and this 115 are alternate interior along this transversal. Okay? Nope. That's I did. I moved it here. It's long. It's a long shape. It's a little bit longer than this, but there's still alternate interior. I just moved long. Okay. You guys can ignore. You can ignore the stuff in the middle. You don't really need it.
I see it now.
I was doing so great before.
That line in the middle there also be like
I'm not gonna worry.
that one.
Here?
Yeah, like the line there. Couldn't that be transversal?
This one?
Yeah, the one where the E and the H are.
Yes. Yep. It can be.
So that would H be 115. Given that.
Yes. So Logan noticed that in addition to the vertical lines that are parallel. We also have these slanty ones that are parallel that are also going to be considered transversals. So if you guys trace all of those lines, I move the 115 up here using alternate interior, then I just have a bunch of corresponding as I go down the railing. Your rails should be parallel, or they're not a safe ramp. So all of these are just corresponding angles. So the E and the H are both going to be 115. So the whole point of this diagram that I wanted to show you is that you guys can jump angles across a picture. You can skip over transversals and go to a complete other side of the picture, as long as you can show me that you have two parallel lines and one transversal. That was the whole point of this one. Okay? Almost done. Now we have a skateboarding ramp, I think, maybe.
Yes.
Some sort of ramp. Alright. We're going to be seeing this particular type of question more on day 3, but I want to introduce it here. My question for you: what angles must be congruent so that A is parallel to B? I know it's a little bit hard to see. There's A, there's B. I'm trying to prove that those two lines are parallel. Which angles in this picture need to be congruent? Hint, find a transversal first. Angle 6 and angle 5 are not even touching line A and B, so no.
4 and 1.
4 and 1?
Yeah.
Using that transversal? What kind of angles are 4 and 1? Yes. You pick a transversal that helps you create that H-type shape that we were talking about before, and then you want to find some angles that should actually be congruent. So you could pick alternate interior or corresponding. There are no corresponding in this particular picture. So you just pick two angles that are alternate interior. Why could I not choose 3 and 2 and do the same thing? Well, 2 is touching A and 3 is touching B. There's a reason why you can't choose 2 and 3.
This is not.
No, it's because you need an extra line to make angle 3. To make angle 3 right here, you'd have to throw that extra dashed line in, and you don't want to add extra lines. You only want the 2 parallels and the 1 transversal, and that's it. Don't add any other lines in there. So it can only be 4 and 1 because they're created with just the parallel and the transversals. Don't throw any extra lines in.
Oh,
So 4 and 1. 4 and 1. Yep. Alright, then this next one, I don't even know what this is. Like, mirrors or something? I took the context out of the question. It's like they're reflecting light on mirrors or something like that. So I know that A and B are parallel. Watch carefully, guys. There are a lot of angles in here. Oh, man. Don't watch that. That's enough. Okay. We're almost done. Hang with me, guys. Alright. Angle 5 is equal to 26. So what should you do? Write it in. Put a 26 right there. Everybody follow along, please. They said that angle 5 is equal to 26, so write it in. They say that angle 2 and angle 4 are congruent. How do we mark congruency in the picture for angles? Arc. The arc is how you say that things are congruent. Alright, I'm trying to solve for x. Trying to solve for x. Tell me some things I could do. Okay, you need to find transversal.
Wait, are 1 and 3?
No. They're not. They didn't tell us that. We can't do it.
Is it transversal?
Say, where's the transversal?
Is it the one going? Yeah.
Okay. No. Dang it. Hold on. Sorry. 1 second. No. I almost got it to work, and now it's not gonna. Okay. Sorry about that.
Can we read that?
Okay. You can, it may be a little bit more complicated than is necessary for this question.
Okay.
What do you guys think? Take a look very carefully. The only number I have is the 26. I have to put that somewhere.
Wait, it's 6.
5 and 6 equal?
We don't know that 5 and 6 are equal now.
Can you subtract
Say it one more time.
4 to convert to 6?
Why?
Because they're all.
Okay, you guys see angle 4 and angle 5? Listen. What's the relationship between alternate interior?
Oh, and then
4 is also 26 because of alternate interior.
4 and X are consecutive interior.
Notice how I'm labeling the picture. I'm telling myself how I'm finding this information. So 2 is also 26 because they told it's not vertical. They told us that they're equal. And now I'm trying to solve for angle X somehow. X is an obtuse angle, so there's no way that it could possibly be 26. We're gonna have to make a little bit of an abstract jump. Nope. Jenny?
Can we just use the vertical angles for like 6?
But the vertical is right here.
Yeah, can we just take 6? Oh, wait,
We don't really have a vertical angle with angle 5.
Then what do we do?
Hold on. Listen, guys. I have a straight line right here, don't I? I know what angle 4 is. I know what angle 2 is. But I find angle 1? How? All of these should add up to 180. So what would 1 be? I have two 26s. I need whatever's left to get to 180. What?
I don't know.
Angle 1. Angle 1 is 154? I don't think so.
128.
Alright. So listen. Stop talking, everybody. To get angle 1, I know that angle 1 plus angle 2 plus angle 4 should be 180. So it's a straight line. So that gives me 128. What's the relationship? If you guys look at this arrow right here, see the horizontal lines?
Yeah.
The horizontal lines are also parallel.
So the X would be 122.
Yes. I wish I would change colors, but I'm afraid it'll mess up the board again. So these horizontal lines are also parallel. If we use the same transversal but the horizontal lines, what's the relationship between X and angle 1? They're alternate interior again. So X would be 128. So that one is a little bit more abstract. That one's tricky. But you can see stuff like that on the SOL. You can find it if you want. Alright. We have about 10 minutes left if you guys want to finish the graded assignment if you haven't. Or start working on the homework and asking questions if necessary. That would be advisable. Or didn't mess up too much.